know what a Yip Yip is? These are little characters that are aliens that you'll find on Sesame Street. They're like these Muppets with these huge eyes and these big mouths, and they kind of dangle around on the TV show, and they have these weird dangly things on the bottom of them. That's a Yip Yip. The nice thing about the Yip Yip is they're easy to make, so I'm going to teach you how to do this today, and you can purpose them for anything. I personally made mine to store all my laundry clips right inside my Yip Yip's mouth. So let's learn how to do this today. It's not too complicated. You will need a few materials extra that you normally wouldn't. So you will need a wire hanger or something similar. That's what I'm using that helps keep his mouth open. You'll need a little bit of black yarn, a little bit of white yarn. Yip Yip is traditionally a bright blue or a bright pink color. So I have a bright pink that we're going to use today. I have a 40 pin Sentro and my 22 pin Addi. Of course, you'll need all the other things, you know, scissors, a darning needle. I also have to say I use my Circular Knitting Machine journal to keep track of all of my project. Here you can see it's got grid paper and all those cool things that you would need to just organize your project. It's also got this cool chart for designing your beanies. I recommend you get this as well. I'll link everything on the description box below. Let's get started. Grab your pink yarn and your Sentro 40 pin or whatever 40 pin machine you might have. I have my little digital counter that I will reset to 0, and then I will cast on. If you need a slow demonstration on how to cast on, I will link that below, but you basically start at your first pin and you stick your yarn underneath the first pin and then around the back of the next pin, and you go over and under every pin, over, under, all the way till you get to the 40th pin, over, under, and make sure that the unders are being caught by those little white pins. You should end behind the last pin, and you want to feed the yarn into the yarn holder here and then into your tensioner. It just depends on the yarn that you're using, so I might adjust the tension. You will do 80 rows with your main color, and at the end I'll meet you there because you will not cast off with your main color. I'm coming up on row 80. Stop right between the white and the black pin. Got my Fiskar scissors. These are the best scissors ever. Recommend them. Cut the yarn. We're going to add waste yarn next. So grab a little ball of scrap yarn or waste yarn and add that to your machine. And just feed it to the yarn holder, put it underneath the black, and crank around 5 to 10 rows. Once you've done that, you can keep cranking it around and the projects just fall off of your machine. Once you have it off, give it a little bit of a stretch. Grab your hanger. Have a pair of pliers handy. That would be helpful. So what you're going to need to do is stretch out your hanger so that it comes in the shape of what you want for the Yip Yip. You're also going to have to twist it. So I just kind of by hand first will straighten it out and see how the hanger is facing this way. Well, I want the hanger to a little bit more to the other side because I want the Yip Yip's eyes to face outwards. So just twist it as best you can. So I've twisted my head so it's facing forward. Straighten this out a little bit. I'm going to twist it in a circle. Just like that. Rah! I'm using a lot of elbow grease. Enlist somebody who's maybe a little bit better with dealing with wire if you need to. And then I'll push it up. That's kind of like the shape of the mouth. So now what you got to do, because it's all goofy like this, is just you got to bend it so that it's going to be the shape you want it to be. So just keep messing with it until you can get it how you need it. So if you ever look at a Yip Yip, the Muppet, its mouth is actually up a little bit. So I'm angling it up a little bit at the end here and going to just keep it like this. I think this is a really good shape. I think the only thing I'll do is just straighten out where this is because it does look a little bit bent here. Now the cast on is going to be the inside of your Muppet. Cast off will be the outside portion. With the cast on the inside, put it inside out, and you will go ahead and cinch the inside first. Once you've got that cinched, you'll want to secure it by weaving it around a little bit and tying a knot so that it's not going to come undone. Now fold it in half as best as you can so that it's about 40 rows on one side and 40 rows on the other. Okay, if you think you have it right, just take a look at it, and if that's where you think it should go, what you'll do is stick your hanger on the inside and poke it out. Pick a hole, and you can always adjust it if it's not exactly where you like it. And you'll wrap around the hanger. And this also works with the 46 pin. So I actually think that the inside's a little too long and the outside's not long enough. So all you have to do, bring it back down through the hole that you started in and carefully put it where you think it should go. So I'm going to go up a few rows and I'm going to make sure it's not snagging on that edge there and to wrap it back around. Next thing you're going to do is close your tube. So grab a crochet hook, and that's the other thing. You want to make sure you're kind of halfway. That's one of the corners there. How it's going to look and see how it's a little bit off there. I'm going to move this piece so that it's in the center. I use a stitch marker to make it easier. That's where I'm going to stick my hanger now. If this video or my channel brings you value, please like and subscribe so that it's easier for other people to find me. Okay, so now you can grab your crochet hook and let's close up the bottom. Starting with your starting yarn, that loop right there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. On the 20th loop, stick your crochet hook in from the outside inwards, and I always start at the top, so go from in, out now. Grab that next loop and bring it in, and then I'll alternate to the bottom one and go from in to out and bring it through the loop on my hook. Show you again. Grab that loop, pull it through the loop on your hook, go to the next one, pull it through the loop on your hook, and you're just going to continue alternating from the top loop, pulling it through the loop on your hook, and then the bottom loop, pulling it through the loop on your hook. Pretty easy. When you get to the end, it gets a little bit tight, so I'll show you how I manage that piece. It can be a little bit annoying, so just keep doing it. I'll meet you at the last loop. What you want to do at the last bit here is grab that end and pull it through the last loop to secure it. To remove the waste yarn, just pull on it and it'll come right off. Check your work for any skipped stitches. And here is how we're looking. And this is where you will attach all of your little danglies that go onto the weird old Yip Yip. Pull out the 22 pin machine, your white yarn and your black yarn. All you need to do here is cast on with your black yarn, do 3 rows, cut your black, add the white, do 15 rows, cast off with the white yarn. Do that 2 times to make 2 eyes. To cast off, thread a darning needle, take your yarn off and make sure it's staying under that first white hook. Crank around, pick up each of these loops with your darning needle. Make sure you hold the next one so that it doesn't come off of the machine. And continue going around, picking up each loop all the way around the machine, and keep cranking around if you get to the back here where it's still around your needles. You basically just have to remove all of your yarn from those needles to be able to cast off by picking up each loop. I'll link a video if you do want just a casting on and casting off. Taking it off of your machine, make sure you tie the white and black yarn together and knot it really well before you continue on, or else that will come undone eventually. Just tie it snug, but not too tight because you don't want it to come undone. And I usually cut the black yarn because if I don't, it'll poke through the white yarn and show some color. Yeah, you will be doubling this thing up, and obviously the black is going to be on the outside. So when you double it up, the white goes on the inside, and fold it in half. Grab that inside tube and cinch that up first, and grab the black one. Now I am, like I said, going to cut this extra black yarn so it doesn't show through. Grab the black end and pull it tight to close up your eye. Once you do that, you can tie it, secure it to your white one here. Take your darning needle and poke them back through the other side. On the other side, I like to knot it again. I will cut the white yarn because I will need it to make the drawstring for my eyeball. Just straighten it out, flatten it out as best you can. Grab your darning needle and your extra white yarn that you have. Grab this and start making our drawstring. So take 2 loops, just pull through, but not all the way through, and skip 2, pick up 2, skip 2, pick up 2. Keep doing that all the way around until you only have 2 loops left, at which point you will skip 1 because the goal is to get back into the same hole that we started in. Here we are with the 2 loops left, so you only skip 1 loop, go back into the same hole you started with, grab some extra stuffing or filling, get extra yarn, scraps, or some polyfill, whatever kind of stuffing you prefer, and stuff your eye, and then we can cinch it closed. So we're going to do this 2 times. When I make the drawstring, I'm going to make one end a little shorter because the long end I'm going to use to sew onto the Yip Yip's face. I like to use my scrap yarn to just shove it in there as the stuffing. But I mean, I have polyfill. I don't know, I can't seem to waste yarn ever. Even the smallest little cuts of yarn I still end up using. I don't know. Anyone else like that? Comment below if you also use every tiny little scrap of yarn. And I have so much yarn. To close up that hole, you can see the scrap yarn pulling through or poking through. Grab your darning needle and go to the opposite side, pick up a few loops, and then you can tie it together and it will get rid of that hole. Okay, I'm going to leave this here because I am going to use that later once I sew it onto the body. I don't know, is Yip Yip a body or just like a mouth with eyes? You want them to be near the head, well, near the neck. If you look at how a picture is of a Yip Yip. I'm just going to grab a couple loops underneath here. Find that extra strand I left, tie it there first, but then there's one more thing I'm going to show you I think is important to do to make sure that the hanger stays in place. You're going to go into the yarn here and under that hanger, and then draw your yarn back through the front. But see, I went a little too low, so I'm going to go back up through that same hole and go up through there. So what I did was I caught the hanger on the inside, and then I'll go through the eye, kind of stab it in the back there. Get stabbed in the eye with a needle. That doesn't sound fun, but the Yip Yip doesn't mind, I promise. Okay, and so we're gonna do it one more time for security. So I'll go up through a top loop, and I'll make sure that I catch both of the hangers, because remember the hanger was doubled. And if I can't get my needle up there, I'll just poke it through any hole, because then I will bring it back up through that same hole, as close to the eye as I can, so the white yarn doesn't show. Okay, and now I'll poke through the eyeball again to secure it. Stab that eye. This is a very violent episode, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's tie that together. The Yips Yips are fun aliens. They enjoy this. Okay, just kidding. I hope you didn't all leave because this is ridiculous, this narration here. Alrighty then, let's shove that through there and hide our yarn ends by, oh, what are we doing? Stabbing him in the eye. Oh, this poor Yip Yip. Alright, little Yip Yip, that's the last eye stab, I swear. Cut it. That's how I like to weave in my yarn. Alright, look at that. We got half a Yip Yip because we still need to do his danglies and his other eyeball. Do his other eyeball, and we will do the danglies next. Depending on how long you want the little danglies to be, I'm going to make mine about 6 to 8 inches. So the length of yarn that you're looking to cut is about 12 to 18 inches. You want to make 12 to 18 inches because of the way we are going to attach it to the Yip Yip. So the way I like to easily do this is I just grab that cut yarn that's 12 to 18 inches, pull it up against a working piece of yarn and cut it, and do it again. Grab it like this, pull it and cut it. And you're going to just keep doing that all the way until you have as many pieces as you'd like for the fringe or the, I don't know, the danglies on the bottom of the alien. Once you've cut a plethora of yarn about 18 inches in length, fold it in half, fold one in half, grab your darning needle, put that inside. So it kind of looks like this. Go to the bottom of your Yip Yip and starting on one edge, draw the loop through, put those 2 yarn ends inside those loops, that loop, and voila! Fold it in half, thread your darning needle, make sure you have that loop there. With that loop and your needle, go through the bottom of your Yip Yip, push that loop through, even out your yarn if you need to. Put those 2 yarn ends in through that loop and pull it to tighten it. You're going to keep doing that until you have as many of these little frilly things that Yip Yips have on the bottom as you'd like. I cut way too much yarn. You only need about 40 pieces cut if you want to do a double layer, which is what I did. So I did what I showed you along the base and then once more on the stitch right above the base. And that's how I came up with the Yip Yip. Hey guys, this is not that hard to make. The hardest part is probably the hanger, honestly, bending it into place, especially if your wrists are a little sore. And then the second hardest part was probably just taking the time with the base. So the last step is to cut. This is the fun part, so I wanted to show you. I'm gonna just make a big mess and it's gonna be so much fun. Okay, guys, here is the Yip Yip. Comment below if you made one. Let me see it on the Facebook group I have. All the links are in the description box below. I can't wait to see some of your makes. And I want to know what you're going to put in your Yip Yip's mouth. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.